In the last video I showed you how to safe wash your car. If you're considering now adding some protection, then you're going to want to make sure that it's clean. I know we've just washed it, but it's not completely clean. Now it needs decontaminating. But what is decontamination? Decontamination is the process of removing any other contaminants from your car's paint. Now, these contaminants usually come in a few different forms. You've got tar, which is flicked up from the road from other car tires, from your own tires. You've got iron fallout, which sounds a bit more scary. That's basically metal shards, metal shavings from brake pads, brake discs, and even if you live near a railway line. And then anything else which is sticking to the paint, which has not been able to be removed by the previous two processes. So we're going to have a talk about what they are. First of all, what products we're going to use. So tar, like I said, that's any tar that's been on the road that's been flicked up, and that generally comes from a newly resurfaced road, or if it's a really hot day and it's starting to get a bit melty, it's going to flick up and it's going to stick to your car's paint. So Autoglym have sent me some products I'm going to be using today. They've got their intensive tar remover. So I'll show you how to use this, but we're going to use that to dissolve, to break down the tar and remove that from the paint. You don't be tempted to pick it off. I know sometimes it can, but it could lift other paint with it. So use something to actually dissolve it and get rid of it. But we can do that very easily. Then the iron fallout, we're going to be using Magma. Now this is an iron fallout remover that can be used on your paint or on your wheels. So it's an all-purpose. What this is going to do, I've talked about iron fallout before, but very simply, the iron shards, the metal shards that are scraped off from brake pads, brake discs, are flown through the air. The car in front of you is braking, it gets flown out and lands on your car. That little metal, it's unprotected, so it's going to rust. This dissolves the rust, therefore freeing up those little metal shards. You can wipe over it, or in many cases you can just use your pressure washer to blast them off the paint. So if you want to check, you can apply it, wait for it to do its thing, rinse it, then apply it again just to make sure you've got everything. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. And then anything else which is sticking to your car's paint, which you cannot remove easily, we're going to use a clay bar. We've got the clay detailing complete kit here. So this contains a clay bar, it contains their detailing spray, which can be used as a clay lubricant. We'll talk more about that in a minute, and a polish to help bring the surface back up to a nice finish. I'm not going to use the polish in this case because the polish will add things to the paint, which we might not want. It depends on the product you're going to be adding. So let's go through. We'll start with the tar remover. Now most tar removers come with a spray nozzle, but they can be good and bad. Sometimes you can use too much of the product. You really don't need much. It's basically a solvent product, and it's there designed to break down and dissolve the tar residue left on your car's paintwork. So on intensive tar remover, they don't have a spray lid. Instead, they just have a small squirty nozzle, and you're supposed to use it with a cloth. And all it says that you're supposed to wipe this across tar spots with a clean cloth and allow it to run, wait a couple of minutes for contact time, and then buff it off. So very simple. We're going to go ahead and just give this a quick wipe over here, and I'm going to look for any tar spots. I'll bring you in close to let you see the product in action. Alright, so I found a good chunk of tar here. This is a tiny tar spot. It's interesting, you really do have to get up close to be able to see these. So we're just going to apply a small amount onto the tar spot itself. We're just going to let that sit and allow the tar remover to work into this, and it will start to dissolve it and once it's become soft enough, we'll be able to just wipe it off with the towel. It's gone. Okay, so it didn't run because the bonnet was kind of flat. If it was on a vertical surface, it may have. But you get the idea there. The solvent is breaking down the tar, making it soft and easy to remove, and just a gentle wipe over with a soft cloth is enough to be able to pick up that tar. So now we need to move on to the next step. We've got rid of the tar on the bonnet, and it's amazing when you get up close, you'll be able to see just how much is there. From a distance, it's very difficult to notice, but as you get closer and closer, you start to see more and more little spots. All of those spots are going to get in the way of any protection product that we apply, because we want the protection products to stick to the paint, not to anything else like dirt or contaminants. So we move on to the next step now, which is iron fallout. So for the removal of iron fallout, we're going to be using Autoglym Magma. Now, the way this works, like I said before, you spray it on and it will react with any of the rust that forms around any of the little metal shavings which have sat on the car, meaning they're going to be freed up and easier to remove. Spray it across, and when you do see any kind of reaction, it will look like little streaks of red or purple or pink, and that is the chemical reaction of the iron oxide, the rust, being dissolved. Then when it comes to the removal, you need to do a couple of things. You can either use a cloth or you can use a pressure washer. I'm going to use a pressure washer, but a top tip, if you're going to use a cloth, some people are worried that if you're going to be lifting these metal particles from the paint with a cloth, you might be rubbing them across your paint and inadvertently adding scratches. If you're going to use a cloth, my recommendation would be that as you're pulling the cloth down, you rotate it backwards so that you're always touching the paint with a bit of fresh cloth or fresh towel, rather than just rubbing it along like this. As you're coming along, you are lifting it, you're rotating it so that the towel behind is coming around. It gives you that little bit of extra safety. But like I say, I'm just going to be using the pressure washer, and then I'll probably spray it again afterwards just to make sure I've got everything, and hopefully I won't see another reaction there. So let's give this a go. Just wanted to bring you in closer. I wasn't sure how much iron fallout there would be on my bonnet, but you can see all of these little streaks and smears. That is all iron fallout. I'm hoping I can zoom in properly here and focus for you. But this is all streaking and smearing from the iron fallout on my bonnet. Okay, so now the bonnet is free of tar, it's free of iron fallout contamination. Now we need to pick up anything else which is sticking to the panel which would not have been removed by the previous processes. So we're going to be moving on to the, what's it called? The clay detailing kit. As stuff falls out, oh, sorry, it's windy. Now it comes with a rapid detailer spray. This is also your lubricant. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Comes with a clay bar in this tin. Now it's a decent size of clay bar that it comes with, but you don't need the whole thing. I'll show you. We're going to tear off a piece at a time. It's actually got a fair amount of use in that chunk. It's a good size of chunk. So the clay itself is mildly abrasive. It's sticky. It's sticky, which means that if you put it onto a dry panel, it's going nowhere. It's going to stick, and that's not good. That's why you use the rapid detailer that comes in the pack as a clay lubricant. So we're going to be spraying this down relatively liberally, and that's going to make a slippery surface. And then we're going to use the clay. I'm going to mold it out into a little burger shape, and we're going to wipe it across the paint. Don't put down too much pressure, and it's going to pick up anything which is sticking, but it's going to be slick enough to slide around thanks to the lubrication from here. So we're going to give that a try just now. So like I say, you only need a small amount. It's just a small flat patty here. You don't need much. Now the idea with this, like I said, you don't need to put down any pressure. We're going to spray down some lubrication, and we're just going to gently, with fingertip pressure, lightly work it across the paint, and you might be able to start to feel some of the contamination, a little bit of dragging. Now, as long as it's not major dragging, that just may be that you're running out of your lubrication. But if you start to feel something on the paint, as you work it over, you'll start to feel that disappears. You also might hear the sound of some of this being picked up, and as it goes silent, you know that that part of the panel is clear. So we're going to go ahead and just give this a try. So I just wanted to show you the state of the clay bar here. It's picked up a bunch of other dirt. I don't know what it is, but it's picked up a bunch of contamination in there. This is all stuff that was on the bonnet, which the bonnet looked clean after the decontamination from everything else. But you can see here, it's still picked up a bunch of stuff. I don't think this bonnet has ever been clayed. But the nice thing about this is I've still got the other side I can use, which is clear. And then if you get both sides completely filthy, you can twist your clay around and mash it up. And what you'll find is that you're going to be exposing another clean bit to use. I mean, obviously have a look at it and check it. If it's filthy, if you've dropped it on the floor, then don't use it. But what you can often find here is that as you spread out to a new section here, that's practically clean and usable. So the clay can be used multiple times. It's not just a case of use this once and throw it in the bin. You can mix it around and make sure you've got another usable surface. So at the moment, I'm going to buff off the quick detailer that's left on the bonnet. So that's the panel decontaminated. It's had removal of tar, iron fallout, and anything else sticking to it with the clay bar. You would think that's it, right? We're ready to go and add protection. Well, maybe not. You see, the clay bar used a detailing spray as a lubricant. That means, well, detailing sprays add generally a little bit of gloss and a bit of shine. They add something to the paint. If you're using a product which demands only paint contact and nothing else in between, then you may want to also remove what was put down by the clay bar, and that's something that some people overlook. So I've made up a solution here of a 25% isopropyl alcohol. That's 1 part alcohol to 3 parts water. That's a fairly strong solution, but I'm going to use this across the panel just to make sure it's got absolutely nothing else on it. It's completely clear of any greases, oils, waxes, anything else at all that's been laid down by the detailing spray. So that is now a completely naked panel. It's been completely cleaned. It's had everything removed on it that we can possibly remove, and I've taken off anything else that could have been added through the decontamination process. That's now ready for whatever protection product you want, whether it's a wax or a sealant or a ceramic coating. Also, you may want to take this moment to decide if you're going to remove any defects from your car's paint. I mean, I'm looking at this in the sun, I see a bunch of swirls. I may be considering removing all of those swirls before I add down any protection, but if you're happy with the way it looks, you want to go ahead with your protection now, by all means go for it. So that is the end of the decontamination process. At this point, you decide where you're going from here. So thank you very much to Autoglym for sending me their 3 decontamination products. I definitely like all of them, and I will continue to use them on the rest of the car. If you liked this video, please give it a like. Also, consider subscribing, and if you're going to do that, make sure you ring the notification bell so you're informed of my next video. If you would like to leave any comments, questions, or suggestions down below, and you can also reach me on Instagram somewhere over here. If you want to see the rest of the videos in this series about washing safely with the pre-wash, the safe wash, by all means click a link somewhere up in the corner here. In the meantime, I'm going to get cracking with this. I've been Specky. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.